I think I heard the ladies say we're recording.
She did.
Is that new?
Yeah, it's been in there for a while, but let me get into this. I want to get real low and erotic like. How's that sound? Is that good?
It sounds lovely.
All right, here we are on The Blind Man in Black, and I am your host, Brian Snyder, and I'm here with my very sexy co-host and wife, Rachel Snyder.
Hello. I feel like I shouldn't talk in this one because you two have great voices and mine's annoying.
No.
I love your voice. You have
I
a very
you in your voice.
See, you have a very
radio voice.
You have a very erotic voice.
Oh, I don't think that's good.
So if you like this show, please rate, subscribe, and review. Also, if you want to see some sexy videos of my wife and I on TikTok, go to the Exhausting Snyders.
Yes, they're sultry, for sure.
They're very sultry. All right, so we are here with a very sensual, erotic guest. She is a former dominatrix, a former featured showgirl, and the innkeeper at Innthrall. Welcome, Kathleen Ashford.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Happy to be
Your
here.
name is so it reminds me of like a 1940s a movie starlet. Like, come on, see Kathleen Ashford on the big screen. She's a knockout. Even though I fucked up your name, but that's all right.
That's fine.
But you get the idea. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but how I know you, I don't know you. That's the whole point. That's why you're here, is you are a close friend of my wife's, Rachel. And we should just kind of explore how you met, but we'll get into that. But how are you holding together through the pandemic?
Oh, it's anybody's guess. I'm not sure that anybody is holding it through the pandemic, but I'm making it look good.
I wish I could see you. I have no idea what does she look like, Rachel? To those
she's gorgeous.
Listening.
She's a shy Irish girl. She's got very long dark hair, and she's very refined. There is a meme, or a gift that goes around, that's been around for years, that reminds me of Kathleen so much, and every time I see it I laugh because it's her, and it's Mary Poppins, and she's sipping her tea and rolling her eyes very slowly. And that's Kathleen in a nutshell.
So there you have it.
I do enjoy tea.
So we're going to discuss a lot of stuff, but I kind of want to understand, and thank you so much for being here. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you. And I want to know where you started. Like, how did you form your worldview, which is a really important question. So what are your influences? Like, where are you from?
That was a very large question.
Yeah, I threw a lot at you. I apologize. Let's start at the last one. Where are you from?
I was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska.
Holy shit. That's cold.
It was so nice. I'm always too warm now. My internal thermometer just got set there. Burning Man is just the worst.
Burning Man?
She was so cute at Burning Man. Oh my gosh. Full covered, just covered at all times.
Really?
Well, she's got beautiful porcelain skin. Yeah. So there was just hats, large hat and shawls, and just completely protected.
I don't own melanin. My skin tone is clear. I will burn at the drop of my hat. I will definitely start burning.
Of her large, beautiful, gorgeous black hat. Yes. It started a thing. There was a thing for a while about the big black hats, and that was her fault.
So what was it like growing up in Alaska? What was that whole scene?
I really enjoyed it for the most part. I didn't know much about the rest of America, or the lower 48, as we say. I everything in California was sunny on the beach, and I was totally going to run away and go live there someday with my skateboard. But then I grew up a little bit more, and now I moved out at 15.
Were you in the bush? Were you like a bush woman?
That's
No,
Australia.
I was
Did you know Jewel?
The Alaskan bush. No.
No to the bush or no to knowing Jewel, the musician?
Both.
Okay. All right.
No, I was born and raised in Anchorage. I also lived in Fairbanks. I spent some time on Kodiak, out in the Matsu Valley.
What did your parents do?
Alien is not Alaskan.
So you couldn't see Russia from your house?
I could hear it, but no, I couldn't see it. I did have a really good shortwave and longwave radio, but so occasionally I could hear it.
So what did your parents do?
My mother was an auditor for the Internal Revenue Service.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exciting.
Right. And my dad, for most of the time he lived up there, was the manager of a high-end furniture chain. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say he was a lobster or crab fisherman, but
No.
that was just my fantasy. So
Californians are really dumb about Alaska. We don't know much about Alaska.
well, let
Not
me
many
ask,
people do. We like to keep it a little mysterious, I think.
have you encountered grizzlies?
I have.
And they don't smell good, right?
No.
It's like I told you my Alaska story, right? About how I was like 17 and I was in Alaska and it was during summer. And I asked the cab, we went by a river, and I asked the cab driver, "Oh, do you swim in there? Because I live by a river." And he just glared at me and he's like, "So yeah, for a minute." And I was like, oh.
It's a bit cold.
Yeah.
Bit cold.
Not
So
smart.
did you say you moved out at 15?
I did, yeah.
That's something you have in common with Rachel. I know Rachel was a little bit later, a couple years later, but
No, that was
similar.
I mean, I moved out of my parents' house at 15. I moved to the Bay Area at 17.
Mhm.
I was trotting around by 15.
So, I mean, what was the dream? I know you were California dreaming, but what was there that was
That was
luring
more
you there?
preteen dreaming. Teenage years were just survival.
Mhm.
20s were indulgent. 30s were we should probably get serious about something eventually. What's actually by then by my early 20s I was really starting to deconstruct and reconstruct who I wanted to be in this world. And it did start earlier than that, but I would say that's when true strides were made.
So, who did you want to be?
Do you remember on the Playboy Party Jokes page, there was always this little cartoon character tumbling about the page? She had a name. It was Femlin. And she had big black hair and thigh-high black stockings. And she was just always having a grand time tumbling about. And that's who I wanted to be when I grew up.
Wow. So
It
that
totally worked out.
it sounds like it did. So we just basically covered everything very quickly. And
I tend to be concise.
yes, that was very concise.
I mean, feel free to ask questions.
No.
Any rabbit trails you want to pursue.
So when you left Alaska, what happened?
The first time I left was just after high school. And I was just figuring out what it meant to have my own apartment and hustle 3 jobs and, try to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Now,
And
was
then
this?
I moved back to Alaska. Well, sorry, what was your question?
No. Go ahead. Keep going.
When I was 19, maybe I was 18. Anyway, it was around Christmas time. And I was like, gosh, I have these, 3.5 jobs and Christmas is coming and holy shit, I'm still broke. So, and just shitty paychecks, right? Shitty jobs. And just for fun, one night, a couple of friends and I went to the local, it was a Tuesday night, the strip joint nearby. They had an amateur night. And the other girl and I were like, yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun. I had been to strip joints before, hanging with the guys. So it was always a fine time. And she and I both competed and I won, to my surprise. And I remember they gave me $100 and I was like, sweet. Christmas is handled. That's the easiest $100 I have ever made. And it was so yeah, I guess that was maybe 3 or 4 weeks before Christmas, and then Christmas was right on the corner. I was like, I should do one more amateur night and just see if I get some more, extra present money. And I won again. They're like, you should just work here. I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. And so I worked 2 of my other jobs and started stripping. And that didn't last long because this is way more fun. I'm making way more money and life just got a lot easier. Turns out money does make life easier. And I danced full-time long enough to finance my move back to Alaska because I was over Washington at that point.
So you obviously enjoyed living in Alaska. It was,
I did. Yeah. I love the people. I love the live and let live attitude. I love why, of course, we don't lock our cabin. What if somebody needs something and they've stumbled, out of the bush? And, they can have our tin o beans and an emergency radio.
Now, the ratio to women to men, there's a lot more men than women. Is that correct in Alaska?
It was like 7 to 1 or something, isn't it?
It used to be 10 to 1 and it's way down now. There's a lot more women. But yeah, they said the odds were good, but the goods were odd.
So you probably you were trying to fend off men a lot because they were just
my
all
entire
over.
life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think Louis C.K. He had a joke about women just have to go through a blizzard of dicks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of them being his.
All the time. Yeah, right.
Ironically. Yeah.
It's true though. Yeah, but that also meant that they were also on offer everywhere. So
They were what?
On offer everywhere.
Right.
If one wanted one, they were handy.
Yes.
So,
that one, and you could clean up a little bit. I'll get back to you.
So, you said you went to strip clubs with the boys.
Yeah.
Were you longing to go to the strip club, or you're just like there because what was that about?
Well, I was one of the guys most of my younger years, I would say until I was 18, 19. I was very much the tomboy, the girl that was allowed to hang out, who was cool. And yeah, like I totally enjoyed strip clubs. And they always thought it was super hot to buy me a table dance and then they'd watch. I'm like, okay, she's making money and this doesn't suck. Go for it.
Strip clubs
So-
are super fun
so-
for young women, Brian. Like we love going to them. Well, we not anymore so much, but you know, when you're young
Right.
and you're drinking and like it's rad to be in the strip club because you're not working, but you get, you know, drink spot for you and there's
Oh,
girls that are
yes.
nice to you everywhere. And it's they're super fun.
Okay.
are.
A lot of young women hang out in strip clubs.
Yeah, I used to just go by myself, so
Yeah.
I don't know what that whole experience is like. So when you started dancing, what was your song? Did you have a signature song? Like
I
Love and
had
Rockets,
several
So
over
Alive?
the years.
I was
Oh,
gonna say, she danced for a long
that
time.
got played for me, yeah. Like a lot. I've had several. It's I'm trying to think of what my first one might have been. I don't know, from the era. It's probably Erotica or something by Madonna.
What was your
Okay.
first name?
Oh, you know what? It was Susie and the Banshees, Last Beat of My Heart, because I was uber
Aw.
goth and dramatic.
Yes. What was your first name? What name did you dance under?
Opium was my stage name.
Opium.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. So you're addictive.
Intoxicating, addictive, expensive.
I'm surprised
Actually,
you
I
didn't.
named myself after my grandmother's favorite perfume that became my own. And it just all worked out, the rest of it.
It's a great name.
Did you ever think about
I didn't
having
want anybody else's name.
your inn called Opium Den?
I thought about having a bar called Opium's Den.
Okay.
Yeah. Like in my someday estate.
So, I mean, there was always a sense that you wanted to, what I'm hearing is display sexuality in some way.
Oh, I loved sexuality and still currently do. And I was so very interested in it from a very young age. I was on Sexual Safari and I just wanted to know all about everything. Why would you do that? Let's find out. So it was very, you could call it promiscuous. I called it curious.
Mhm. So, I mean, I would say, would it be safe to say that you've experienced everything almost?
Everything that I've wished to, yeah.
So you have
that
no
I've thought-
regrets.
No, and it's hard to think of, do I have anything left on my sexual bucket list? And I mean, surely something will occur to me eventually, but it feels pretty well handled.
Wow. Okay. All right. Rachel, has anything come up that you thought about?
What do you mean? Has anything
Because I've been constantly interjecting, or as you say, interrupting.
interrupting? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean as I say? There's one or the other, Snyder. They mean two different things.
Okay.
No, I mean, I know most of this about Kathleen already because we've been friends for many, many years. And when we talk about this stuff, Kathleen and I, it's always funny because I'm such a rube. Like I'm the quintessential tomboy. I'm super like weird about sexuality. It makes me laugh. You know, I still giggle at like silly words, you know, or sexual words. I'm like, you said.
There are some silly words.
Yeah, they're silly. And so I always love listening to her talk, but I also always feel like I so don't know what to say right now because that's so not what I like. I blush and stuff. And I almost danced as well, but at the same age, I was in San Francisco with a girlfriend, same thing. And we went, we're going to go to amateur night. And then the guy asked me if I had any, no, we were actually just going to try out. It wasn't even like, we're going to go check it out and do it. We were just going to go because we heard how much they made and we're like, and he asked me if I had any tattoos and I had a giant tattoo on my back. And this was in the 90s. And he's like, nope, don't even bother.
You couldn't cover it up back then.
Yeah.
You couldn't work in a nice club.
Yeah. I mean, I could have found a job somewhere, but not where I would have wanted to work.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
that was the thing back
extremely
then.
into my body
No
art.
tattoos, no piercings. You had to dermablend.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the time, I still do, obviously, I had a giant back piece. So that was the end of that. So my friend went on and she ended up being a dancer, but I went and worked at the bookstore instead.
Also,
mean-
not a bad backup. I mean, I would love to work in a bookstore.
But then later on, I did work in a strip club as a waitress for about 6 months.
Right.
And I really enjoyed it. It was super fun. I don't think now I know I couldn't have danced. It's just not in my nature. And part of it is because I am a dork. And so I can't like act sexy without feeling like a dork. Like there's no way I could, move my body or make my face do the things that these girls do, because I just feel like I just feel so awkward because I'm awkward. I'm not great, and the girls were intimidating to me. They were tougher than me and, kick my ass and would, if I stole their tips from any, stole attention from the patrons or anything. But
Right.
I did make a lot of great friends there. I really enjoyed watching them and listening to what was going on. It was always exciting. It was always a party. But I did end up leaving, even though the money was amazing, even for me as a waitress. I bought a car within 6 months.
Yeah.
The money I made there, but I started to really hate men, honestly.
Oh, bummer.
I started to
Yeah.
get really, really irritated and just disgusted. I mean, I was raised by a man. I have brothers. I love boys. I've always been a tomboy. I've always been one of the guys. And I started to really resent the way that these men, I was watching them treat these women and me too, but not nearly as much. Some of them were just so fucking awful. And
It's true. Some of them go there expressly to be awful to women.
and those were the ones that were making me I could feel myself starting to have a problem with men in general, because they come and be abusive on purpose. That's why they were there. And even to me, I'd make them a drink and they'd shove it back and, they'd just be verbally abusive. And in that environment, you're not allowed to really fight back. I mean, it depends on where you work, and it depends on what the person does, but to some degree you have to keep them happy. And so, and they know that. And so they just fuck with you. And and I saw some of the girls get treated
That
really
would drive me nuts.
And some of the girls, the women that do that jobs are of all different types, but there is always that type that should not be there because they're very vulnerable and they're in a bad place, and they made me sad, like they didn't want to be there and they were just doing because they had to, and they were, addicts and just having really, and then there was these women that were just rocking it and doing it as a job and owning it, but then there's these other girls that just made me so like mother hen, and I started to have bad feelings about.
You would have been a good house mom.
Yeah, I thought so. I tried to be that a little bit. And then the manager called me and he said, you should dance. I'm like, no way. Cause I was already making more than the girls, because the girls
They
were tipping
always do that to all the waitresses.
Yeah, but I mean, they were tipping
If
me
they're-
out, but dancers had to. So, and I wasn't paying stage fee. So I was walking out with more money than them half the time.
I believe
And
it.
then he's like, well, then why don't you do me a favor and just keep an eye on things for me? And I'm like, you want me to spy on the strippers?
Oh no.
Oh, no.
That wouldn't work out well.
I'm not stupid. No, they'll kill me.
Mhm.
So I said, why don't you just let me be a bartender? And he said, well, do you know how to make drinks? I said, do I need to know how to make a drink? So we only have male butter. I said, that's stupid. I'm going to pull in so much more. I know how I like to make a Manhattan, but how do you like to make it? Why don't you tell me what your perfect Manhattan's made of? It's that simple. And so, yeah, but
Easy
the
peasy.
money wasn't worth the bad feelings I was starting to get about men in general, and
Yeah,
the uglier
it-
side of life
it
was
can
bumming me
be
out.
that way.
Was there ever a thought, Rachel, that your father, Mick, would walk in and just flip out?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
First of all, my dad knew I worked there. It wasn't a secret.
Okay.
He lived with me half the time I worked there. It was fine. But also he would never go a place like that. That was not his. He was Catholic. I mean, he wasn't Catholic, but he was raised Catholic. And that prudishness that I have, that comes from him. That whole like awkward talking about it and blushing. And yeah, he would not be comfortable with that. I didn't even find like any porn really when he died and I went through stuff. Unless he got rid of it already. I don't know. Who can
He
say?
might have cleared his cachet.
Well, he wasn't very good at that, so I hacked his stuff. I got it.
You would know. You would absolutely know.
I would have found it if it was in there.
She's a good sleuth.
Yeah. Yes.
So Kathleen, so you started being a showgirl, and where did you go?
Yeah, I moved back to Alaska. I became a showgirl. I made a shitload of money. By 22, I owned a house, a car, and a truck.
That's that ratio working in your favor there.
Exactly.
So you probably encountered a lot of porn stars, because I know from working at Digital Playground, that's the movies helped raise their rates when they danced.
I
And
worked at what was then called a gentleman's club. So it was considered kind of a step above the general strip clubs, where they would have the big flashy neon. Everybody just knew that we were the club and the gold standard in town, right?
Usually run by right? Usually run by criminals.
Actually, this one was family owned and operated.
Oh, in San Francisco, it's criminals that run.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the rest of the clubs, yeah. Most of them.
so, I mean, did you travel around the US doing it, or did you stay pretty much?
No, I worked in Vegas a couple of times, but I hated it. I did not
Why?
like dance. Oh, it was just that's there's something to that town that will just suck your soul right out.
Mhm.
Even though the
Like
money
what?
was fine. There was no respect shown towards women at all. And this was at a nice, big, fancy, expensive club. And still they just felt like they could take liberties at will, and the bouncers did nothing about it. And I was just like, no, I'd rather go have a gambling problem for 3 more days and then go home. And that was, I indulged.
And then I'm sure you had experience with celebrities and things like that coming in, and that whole experience as well.
Yeah, they happened now and then.
She's in Alaska, so there's not a huge.
Well, yeah, it's really expensive for shows to travel to Alaska, so we didn't get a ton of concerts. But when we did, they tended to be big name ones because they could afford it to use it as a working vacation, basically, go hunting and fishing.
Right. And strip club hopping. Okay.
Yeah, like you do.
So where did the dominatrix work come in?
Well, I think you asked earlier if I'd done some traveling, and I did find myself traveling a lot to Seattle and San Francisco, where I found the S&M clubs.
The Power Exchange?
When it was good, yeah. In its heyday.
Right.
Definitely. And Bono Chicago is already there. And there were just events and parties, and there were scenes happening everywhere. And I was like, yeah, something about this really speaks to me. And there was nothing in Alaska even to reference it. And so I started really exploring and playing and feeling it out. And then I would go back to Alaska. And as a showgirl, I could do themed costumed sets. So, and we get 3 songs instead of 2. And I started doing dominatrix shows. And that's kind of how I worked out my kink, was I would pull that out now and then until I financed my next round of travel.
So we'll get back to the dominatrix, but where did you travel? Where do you like to go?
My favorite place is Ireland. The more north and west I go, the more I love it.
Is it because of your roots?
I do have some Irish roots, but it's certainly very mixed in with others. But it's where I've always felt a calling to. And of the places I've been, it's the only place that's felt anything like home.
Feels like
I
home.
really felt that there. Yeah. So
have you ever thought about moving there?
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to be in healthcare or tech, and you have to be able to prove that you can support yourself for, I think, 5 years and not be a burden on the system. Like it's beyond my means.
Okay.
They don't make it easy.
They don't make it easy, but definitely it's a goal.
Was it what part of Ireland?
The more north and west, I like it. So Donegal and Sligo are my current favorite areas. But I have more exploring to do, so who knows?
So let's go back to the dominatrix stuff. So in your experience, do you enjoy being a dom, or do you like doing both? Being the sub?
No, I really found that I enjoyed being a dom. I tried the sub thing because as a young woman who was considered attractive, of course, there were tons of predators coming at me left and right. And I didn't necessarily know it because this was a new world to me. And they're like, well, of course you're submissive. You gotta at least, and if you're a top, you have to at least start as a submissive. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I did. And I was like, this is doing nothing for me. And then I saw a lady in a different scene across the space, and there was a crack of a whip, and I saw a flinch of a butt cheek. And I was like, it's like the same feeling when I put on high heels as it is when I put on combat boots. It's that surge of power, and it's pretty intense and hot.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, isn't the true power in terms of the relationship the sub?
I mean, you can call it power, you can call it authority exchange. Is a term that's coming into more common usage. So I think that is a little bit more accurate, because they can absolutely end the scene if you're playing with somebody who's ethical. Absolutely. If you use your safe word or your safe signal, should be stop. What do you need? Scene like done. Like you can't be attached to the outcome.
I mean, I think, and you can tell me, because I mean, there's an example like in The Wolf of Wall Street, Leonardo DiCaprio's character was with the dominatrix. I think he had a candle up his ass or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think
I've done that to somebody.
in your I mean, like, I think, wealthy, I mean, because being working at Digital Playground, I mean, I was exposed to some of the economic elite and how they operate. And it seems like the more money they have, the more I guess abstract or out there their sexual desires become. And I think part of it, like in terms of
for whose side?
What's that?
For whose side?
For whose what?
For whose side of the equation? Yeah, of the slash, as they say.
I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
The top or the bottom?
Like, you're saying that the more money they have, the more eclectic their taste.
Oh, you're talking about the tops exclusively. Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, I think probably a lot, I would assume a lot of wealthy men, especially, would like to become the sub, because then they have that power, even though it's reversed. It's like kind of hidden a little bit,
No, truly, for the most part, they're really trying to give that up. Like, nobody wants to have to safe word out of a scene. They're paying for the privilege of giving up all of the authority that they have to carry on their shoulders. And they're often, in positions of power. And sometimes that certainly brings wealth, but is absolutely every walk of life. A lot of people really save up for the experience. And some others can, it's pocket lint to them. but nobody wants a safe word out.
I mean,
Unless they're
so
really into, oh, I need a cathartic, push me over the edge and until I safe word. And then it's like a goal, right?
So Brian, did you tell Kathleen about your adult industry background?
I mentioned it very briefly because I wanted her to
Yeah.
feel comfortable talking about whatever, because I'm pretty
And
open
the
about it.
pseudonym sounded familiar,
You
but
won an AVN.
I couldn't.
Yeah, as an
Yeah.
AVN.
Oh
Yeah.
shit. Nice. Nice.
Yeah, it's not something I'm very proud of. It was a
Why?
very fear-based decision. And I
Oh.
mean, I really gave up a lot of myself to do it because I've talked about this a lot, but when I was learning that I was going blind and going through the first part of it, I got very scared. And I was, I'd been trained as an actor, and then I, studied directing, and my plan was to stay in, mainstream, either experimental theater or film or whatnot. And the only reason I wanted to explore the adult world was because I realized that my eyesight was fading much faster than predicted.
The
And so,
irony.
yeah. And so I
Do you
was
just
like,
want to drink it all up? It's like most men are visually stimulated when it comes to eroticism. You just want to dive in, lean in?
I mean, I think I had the George Carlin kind of thing about, at the time I was like, well, he had this joke about, why is prostitution, stigmatized, sex is legal, selling's legal, selling sex, why shouldn't, selling sex be legal? And so I kind of went into that. And then also at the time there was a documentary on HBO called Pornocopia. And it really was a marketing like propaganda tool that I mean, it was just like everybody was like, oh, I get paid for sex. It's awesome. And like, they didn't
I
show
missed all of that. I didn't have television for like a couple of decades.
yeah, it was very popular. And it just,
Cornucopia?
yeah, it's called Pornocopia, and you can watch it on HBO, Rachel. I think it's still there, but, and, yeah, it just explores the porn world and is in the San Fernando Valley. And so I thought, wow, I'm losing my eyesight. How am I going to make money? I have an undergraduate degree in theater and a master's in directing. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose my eyesight before I even get anywhere in the mainstream. So I was like, maybe if I do this, I'll at least make some money. And so I got into it, and it was pretty depressing. And everybody that I worked with is kind of emotionally scarred from it, and has issues, and they don't watch porn anymore, and I don't either.
Mhm.
I saw the dark side of it, what happens to, the exploitation and also just the I was, everybody gets tested, but there's a lot of things that at that time, I think the only thing that was tested for was HIV, gonorrhea, and chlamydia. So there was a wide
Just the top
variety of
three.
Yeah.
a wide variety of STDs that were not tested for. And then also that, like herpes was assumed that everybody had herpes simplex too.
Oh, and that either way, it was,
And and then you'd hear
like so dramatic.
yeah, and you'd hear about people getting infected with gonorrhea. And then as we know that the more times you get like a bacterial infection like that, it becomes more antibiotic resistant. And then there's the
Mhm.
problems with that. And then, so, I mean, and then I just had people confide in me about the misery they were experiencing. And, even the owner. So, it was
Okay, time to reevaluate everything at that point. Like if you shouldn't be
and
miserable at work, and especially as a sex worker, if you want to continue to enjoy sex and you're miserable at work, get the hell out.
and I did not have any when I worked there. So that tells everyone a lot.
Well, and when did your OCD develop, Brian? Was it while you were a digital playground or?
No, it was shortly before. It was during graduate school that it really, but I think it was correlated to my vision loss. So when I learned that I had Usher syndrome type 2A, that's when it all began.
I'm just
Eh,
saying, when I was in the strip club, that's the last place I would want OCD.
Yeah, yeah, and
True.
I mean,
Bad place to have to deal with that.
I
Those of us who
had,
thrive on chaos are a little more excited by it.
I had an experience, and I joke about it because it's funny. I was doing behind the scene camera for a production, and I remember Scott Nails. He just blew his load all over Penny Flame's face.
Okay.
And and then he's done, but he's like still stroking it. And he's like, and I'm like kind of on the ground, like by the door. And he's like, his dick is like within like felt like a foot away from me. And he's like stroking it. And I'm like, Jesus. And there was I did have some OCD stuff related to that, but it wasn't my OCD, waxed and waned at that time. But yeah, that was my experience. So, but yeah, it's not something that I have a lot of regret about stuff like that. So,
I'm sorry to
um,
hear that.
yeah,
Sex work is definitely not for everybody. And I'm glad it was for me.
right.
I enjoyed being a dancer. I loved being a dominatrix. That was a lot of fun. I was a paid professional bitch.
Which I found very appealing until I learned what it entailed.
It's true. I remember us having this conversation because
Yeah.
you were right. You would be excellent at the bossing people part.
Yes, and the boss and smacking people I'd be great at, but the other stuff not so much.
Yeah, when it came to the stuffing butts part, you were like, I'm out.
That was my stop sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and we had been at Tiki. We had been at Tiki at the time. So this was a loud conversation. It was very loud.
Of course it was.
Volumed. Most of mine are, but this was like yelling, I'm like, you have to stuff butts. Oh, I don't think I can do that. No butt stuffing. I can't butt stuff. Butts? Like what? What do you stuff their butts with? I was very intrigued and horrified at the same time.
Horrified.
I really just thought that she got to kick guys around, and I thought that was great, and I wanted in. But then I was
often, it's lovely. You just boss them and kick them, and
I thought
to find time. But
and then I said, well,
there's a lot of butt stuffing too.
Yeah, like how much you have to touch them? Like, do you have to do anything? And she's like, well, yeah. I was like, oh, well, that's not what I'm signing up for.
Well, I make them handle things themselves when the critical moment arrives. I'm only there to do terrible things to their parts.
Yeah, I think I just wanted the sexual part taken out completely, and I just wanted to abuse people, was what I was hoping it was, but sadly, no.
Bummer. Yeah.
But as with death work, sex work you have to be cut out for it. It has to be something you're kind of built for, and it's not for everybody. And I found my place,
right?
And it is not for everybody. And the sex work too. I know many sex workers. I think Kathleen is probably the most. She's definitely to some degree changed how I've seen it. I've always been very pleased with it in general that it exists. But it's not for me necessarily, but I'm always intrigued with it and interested in it. But I also know a lot of broken people that have been in it.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathleen's ability to adapt to it and move with it and enjoy it and embrace it. And she's turned it into an absolute art. And she's basically a psychologist, psychologist. Like she's so knowledgeable and she's so
it's 95% in the brain.
Yeah, and she's really changed my view on how serious it is. Like I was like, well, it's it's frivolous and indulgent, but it isn't. And Kathleen's kind of who taught me that and showed me.
It has a lot of gravity to it.
Yeah, and so she put some weight to it that made me feel a little less flippant about it.
at least the way that I do it. And of course there are many who were very different and persona wise and style wise.
Sure, but the way that you do it gave me a higher level of respect for it as an intellectual and an emotional place that's cool. not just people getting wasted and doing weird stuff in the dungeon, like it
No,
had that.
they don't usually get wasted at all.
I know. Well, I had this I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm from a tiny mountain town where, and then I go to San Francisco and I go to Bunja Go and I go to these places and I wear the bondage gear, but I don't do any of that. I'm like, he said,
I mean, the outfits are
so
really good, right?
the outfits are great. And that's,
Yeah.
and that's always been my problem. I wanted to dress the part. I just didn't want to have,
I think it's perfectly fine.
and then I'm surprised when people are like, oh, do you play? And I'm like, do I play what? Guitar? No. Wait, what? Oh, no. I just think I look hot. No, that's all this is. But
I mean,
the woman can.
they had to ask, right?
No, and it's fair.
It's a numbers game.
I still always get surprised. I'm just like, what makes you think that? I'm just wearing a corset and fishnets and how rude. Yeah.
It took me a long time to kind of realize that I had anything resembling a cult of personality outside of my tiny by the hour workspace bubble. And that was weird.
But that's one of those jobs too, that it's your lifestyle, it's
I was supposed to be all glam, all fabulous all the time.
And so, she is, for the most, but she is. It's amazing. She's known for it. I mean, she wears heels on the playa.
What else would you wear? I don't get it.
So let's talk about how you met each other.
Well, we met at Burning Man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the exact moment. I remember the moment I can see us because I remember what you were wearing because it was very close to my face because we were on one of the art cars and you were standing and I was sitting. And I don't remember what started our conversation though, but it was something that that we connected quickly. Like, I think I had seen her about and hadn't really considered that she and I would click necessarily. She's very quiet and very fancy. And I'm shotgunning beers and, rolling around in fist fights with people. So I didn't see us having much in common right away. But then the first time we spoke, I wish I could remember what it was, but she, I think you fixed something for me. I don't know. I was having some problem as usual and you fixed it. You just, oh, come here, darling. And you took me and you fixed it. And I saw that she was a little tougher than I thought she was. I
can chop and stack my own firewood.
We bonded fast. Like it was an unlikely pairing, but I think I don't remember.
I don't remember the specific instances. I just remember loving you right away and being delighted to know you more each time.
Well, Kathleen always had something like she was smart enough to always have ice water or like she always had what you needed because she took care of herself, right?
Overly prepared girl is overly prepared. I probably have a spare.
And where's she keeping it all? Because she's wearing like panties and thigh-high boots. And that's pretty much it. And where does she have all this safety gear and ice water and where is she pulling it out? Aspirin and I was just very impressed with that.
I had a pretty surreal moment on the playa sidebar. I was walking kind of through a light dust storm by myself. And I had my little bag, my little Ziploc to collect any moop. And I had a nice big handful. And I was far from home. And out of this dust storm appeared a client. And without a word, I handed it to him. He took it and I walked away. And it was beautiful.
So Brian, moop is things that you find on the ground that's not supposed to be there, right? Because you're supposed
matter out of place.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So if you usually have a little pocket or something that if you see where it's all community, we're all supposed to be helping out and picking up.
You're responsible, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what. And he just took your moop away.
Of course he did. We had to return to Seattle at some point.
And that's what I loved about Kathleen. First of all, she was always down to whatever silly adventure I had. And she'd do it gracefully in heels, which was so impressive to me because I can't do that. But I mean, you would expect her to be like, well, I should sit this one out because of what I'm wearing. But no, she never did.
No.
I was just always constantly.
I can climb that. It's fine.
It's no problem. My purse, please.
Oh, do you need some Neosporin?
So Was there something about Thunderdome that you were attracted to in particular, or did you go to different
Yeah.
camps?
The first time I went was with some lovely humans who I would describe as hippies. It took the people in my friends group probably 12 years to convince me to go to Burning Man. They're like, you love it, you love it, you love it. I'm like, it's in the desert. They keep it really hot there.
It's hot, it's
And
dirty, there's hippies. No.
I didn't care about the dirty, but the hot, I was like, but they convinced me that we'd come up with enough systems, and I planned. So it mostly worked out. But no, I was like, okay, so I'm supposed to wear like glowy shit? No, I don't want to wear glowy shit. And I had a terrible bicycle, but one night we went to Thunderdome and I heard the music, and I actually saw some friendly acquaintances, friends. But I was like, these are my people. This is what I want to do. Like, this is what I want to be involved in.
Did you
And I was
did you
just
go into the
intrigued.
Thunderdome?
I did not. No, I don't fight in Thunderdome.
Well, and I should mention the Thunderdome has ties to the sex clubs in San Francisco and the strip clubs and stuff. That's because it's all the nightlife is all tied together. So Thunderdome started with all the people who worked the club scene there, and
But
that
I didn't have any of that connection at the time.
well, it did as far as people who work, like the
Death
people
Guild?
who worked at the different clubs. There was
Right,
people,
there's tons of crossover. Yeah. But being
but not
from
for you.
Alaska, I was
Yeah.
not, I didn't know what the situation was with anybody in a very cliquey kind of.
Very
These are like, these are some very tough people, and I am very fancy. Well, tough. I'm gonna have to, everybody has to kind of prove themselves a bit. And being the girlfriend of the camp leader at the time, I had apparently a lot to prove, and I didn't know it.
Thunderdome is very female heavy. It's
Matriarchal.
the matriarchal.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's matriarchy. And coming in on a man's arm is not the best and that's how I came in as well. So, or that's how I came in. I married into Thunderdome. So I thought I would have a heart, but I also was from the Bay Area, and I knew some people some of them I'd grown up with. So I had that little bit of an edge. But yeah, otherwise, if you're not coming in because you're a hell-raising motorcycle riding, badass, and you're coming in because your boyfriend, you got a little bit more that you're going to have to do to get in.
Definitely. And it was very hot, which I am not good at.
Yes.
And but nighttime.
Kathleen blossomed when the
I
sun went down.
lived for the night.
Wilted all day.
Oh, I did. It was so sad.
It was very sad.
The night would arrive, and I was like, and adventures were had, and everything was fabulous.
You would go to her camp, and she would have these big, big, beautiful, and all the shade, and the big hat, and the giant sunglasses, and just covered, and she's just very unhappy.
And I packed my shit in dry, like all of my beverages were in dry ice, so like I could just like ice down anytime. And
Didn't Marisa make you work?
Of course. I mean, everybody works.
Everybody works.
Camp. Right. Everybody works.
It's the work camp.
Yeah.
You don't work, it's not fun.
and if you're not part of a clique, and you're not interested in riding in on your boyfriend's arm, you have to. I wanted like I was intrigued with Thunderdome. It just turned out in the interim year, I became partners with the person at the time. And so I was like, no, these are my people. I belong here. It's cool that was an easy way to kind of maybe slide in, without being sponsored by anybody else. But
yeah, because you have to be sponsored by someone else to join Thunderdome.
Yeah.
You can't just walk in. But I worked twice as hard because I didn't necessarily have to do that. Like I got in trouble for it from my partner because he
You
felt that he had
would
a
work
seniority that
yourself
he
too
felt,
hard.
well, he had a seniority that he felt meant he didn't have to do work. Well, and we did so much of the artwork, ahead of time and brought the cards and stuff. So
You
he
did.
felt that's where it ended. But if I was working, like I was taking out trash and cooking and doing dishes, he was
Mhm.
like, "Don't do that, because then they'll
I
expect
cooked and
me
did
to do that."
dishes my first
Yeah.
year.
But I got in trouble several times for working from him. He's like, if you no, because you came in with me, so you're up here, so you don't have to do that.
You have an elevated status. You've just, floated in on.
Well, he didn't care about my stat. He cared about his own. He didn't want to have to be expected to work himself. So
Right.
he felt I was taking the bar down, basically, by
Well, he
doing.
felt that extended to you to some degree. So by you working, it was like,
Well, but no, yeah, no. Again, he was worried about me making him look bad because he's not going to do it. So,
well,
like, if you do it, I have to do it, and then I don't want to do it.
okay, so that makes sense.
That's what that was about. And I was like, well, I do have to do it because I'm not actually an extension of you, and these girls won't like me if I don't. And I can, and I enjoy. I mean, I loved working. I didn't enjoy dishes, but or trash so
I
much. But
liked working at night, but
I loved putting up the
no,
scaffolding. I loved doing all the manual labor stuff.
I love that scaffolding. I love scaffolding build, but the work at night tended to be running Thunderdome.
I wanted to be drunk at night. I didn't necessarily.
That's exactly what most of camp wanted to be. And I was like, but I just woke up, I'm ready to work. And yeah, so I know that I was probably very correctly judged for my lack of daytime work input.
Well,
But
I think
it
everybody.
was really hard to figure out where to even start.
It seemed like not everybody noticed the work that wasn't their own work. Like if they didn't see you were doing what they were doing, you didn't work when there's all this other stuff.
No, I was doing a lot of work, but it wasn't visible, and it had to be visible work.
Yes, it has to. You have to be miserable. You have to be out there sweating and upset and with a drill, or you're not doing it.
True story.
Yeah. So what is it about Rachel that attracted you to her?
Her lack of filters.
Lack of focus?
Filters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I like how she's like, yes, hello, this is who I am. There was no pretense. There was just genuine authenticity. And that is so just attractive to me. Not in a lusty way, but in this case.
Yeah, and that's what I meant, like in a personality wise. Like what was it? Yeah.
I think Brian still seems to think that I'm have this intriguing like secret world. Like he doesn't necessarily believe that this is it.
And also Rachel was willing to talk to me. I mean, that was not necessarily a thing amongst everybody.
Yeah, it's
really what do you mean by that?
Until you prove yourself, you're not really worth getting attached to or talk. There was a weird hierarchy going on back then.
There was
a lot of
actually
voice. It was very complicated.
Especially for the women, very complicated socially.
Very complicated.
And there was it's hard to explain, especially without getting in trouble, but there's a hierarchy. There is a new people are shunned just by design until.
Is there any hazing
it's very
happening?
much like the strip joint.
I mean, that is hazing. Basically, I mean, that's the hazing, is that you're not acknowledged until someone
you prove yourself.
Yeah.
Well, or someone takes a liking to you. I instantly kind of got in on the upper levels because of my shit talking, because basically the first hour I was there, there were some of the hierarchy on a thing we used to call Camp Lazy Camp, which was just a big flatbed that we put our chairs on, and then Trey's husband would drag us around on it. But they were just sitting there snarking at people going by, and I was like, oh well, excuse me, I'll just take up a seat right here because this looks like my jam. And that's what ingratiated me, was my big mouth. But
I think it was my hospitality, building the hen house and having
the hen house for sure. I mean, Kathleen was always gracious and a fabulous host, even when she's hosting on her little, like the front steps of her.
In my Costco carport.
Yeah, her carpet.
But I
And,
had pretty things in it, you know.
she brought some real class and beauty and pampering to the Thunderdome, which it was not known for any of those things before
No,
her.
I instituted the first real spa day.
Spa day, yes, things like she did spa day, the hen house. I mean, those were things that were desperately needed because we were all out there trying to prove how tough we were, right? And then she's like, oh, but spa day, here's a swimming pool with foot treatment and cabana boys hair washing, and we're like,
I
well,
recruited
we're-
Cabana Boys from
we're very
Camp
tough.
Playa.
we're very tough. Oh, but that looks really nice. What is he
Would
gonna
you
wash-
like a massage? Yeah, he's here for you.
She got
enjoy.
cabana boys. She got us cabana boys.
Yeah.
It was
Easy.
lovely.
Oh,
Spa
Huh?
day was great. Yeah.
I just asked them if,
They made us cocktails. There was fancy
Yeah.
cocktails. There was
There-
hair washing.
there was meat candy.
There was meat candy. Everything.
is there something, Rachel, about Kathleen that you desire in yourself that like you want to be more like?
Oh yeah. I think maybe it's the opposite of what she was attracted to me about, and that is her what is the word I would use? Not prudence, but she's very careful with her words, and she's very precise and concise, and it's all very measured. And so, you know, she's a vice when it comes to secrets. She's she always says the right thing, you know, when her comebacks are amazing and well thought out. You know, I'm just this spewing fountain of words.
You're amazing. Are you kidding?
And well, that's just because I say so much. Like I hit the target every once in a while, because if you're, you know, shotgun effect. But Kathleen's confidence when it comes to especially handling difficult people, or, you know, she does it so gracefully and so in a way that, like, she doesn't have to. She's just graceful. I mean, I guess that's the best, and that's the last.
But also tough.
Very tough. Well, that's the thing. I mean, she's handling giant biker men with, you know, with a flair and heels with this, and with her beautiful voice, and that's kind of sing-songy and relaxing, and you know, she doesn't have.
Oh yeah, I can pull out Valium voice anytime I really need to.
She's like the man whisperer, but I mean, like stopping fights and stuff like that. You know, she's like, okay, we will stop this right now, you just
Settle
listen to her.
down.
I mean, if she tells me to do something, I just do it. I don't even, like, it's just a pavilion response. I'm like, oh, okay, mom, boss.
If I do, it's for a good reason.
Well, it's that dominatrix. She's dominating you, Rachel.
I know, and it's fine because I trust her. See, that's important, I think.
That's very
That's
important.
Did you have
I
a
know
safe
if she
word?
says run to run. I know, you know, to stop to stop. No, I
totally,
don't.
totally can be. Yeah.
But I really appreciate the way that she always is collected, and everything's beautiful until it doesn't need to be. And then she, you know, she's got a lot of control and power over herself and over, you know, any situation that she finds herself in. And I'm, you know, walking chaos, and that's something that is not always great for me. I mean, sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's really awful. And I watch her, you know, I watch her move through situations with always keeping that, you know, that control. And it's very something I wish I was capable of sometimes.
What's the craziest thing that you've seen Rachel do, Kathleen?
Oh God.
Or wildest?
I'm not allowed to
or
talk
erotic
that.
or whatever.
Like
Erotic. She doesn't see me do anything erotic. Except for when we went to Folsom, and was I with you that year when Heather did my
With
corset
Mr.
so high
T.
I almost threw up because I had my corset on right for once, and I had Mr. T.
yeah, yeah, we had Mr. T with us.
I took some very erotic photos with Mr. T in one of the clubs.
You too.
Okay.
Yes,
And
I showed them
where
to your-
was this?
I showed them to your parents the other day.
It was in. I heard about that in Folsom.
Folsom
At
Street.
Folsom Street Fair. Yeah, I would come down for that usually.
What was going on there?
You don't know what Folsom Street Fair is?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Do you know what it is?
No, I haven't been there.
Then why are you saying, oh, okay? It's a
Well-
fair, it's a street fair that's a sex fair, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it has roots in the gay Leatherman community. Basically, within these blocks, anything goes in large part.
So
Yeah,
it
I
must be
saw-
very frustrating for the prisoners of Folsom Prisoner to look out and see all this.
It's in San Francisco, Brian Snyder.
Oh, I thought you said Folsom.
Folsom
Fol-
Street. It's
Folsom
the
Street
street
Fair.
in San Francisco.
Oh, I thought you meant like Folsom, like the city,
Placer
and then
County.
street fair.
Yeah, no, there's not a sex fair in Placer County. That I
That's why I thought it was so weird. But I was like, okay, well, if that's happening there, I'll go there.
Placer County's very conservative.
Yeah, because you were saying Folsom Street Fair. Like I thought you meant like Folsom has a street fair.
I mean, I know it's a prison. Is it a town too?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Both,
very
is it
good.
forbidden? Yes. No, it's a fetish heavy street fair, and where anything. It's very. I've seen things there. Wow,
Yeah.
seen some things.
Oh
first
boy.
time I
Sound like
ever
a
went-
non-vet.
Well, the first time I went, when I first moved there at 8. I was 18 at the time, and I was from here and hadn't seen anything. I mean, at all, except for maybe some date rapes in a field or something. and I go to street fair, and I'm told what it is, and I'm with Michael and Luke, right? And so that's funny already, and Jonathan, I think, was with us too, because that's who I met the minute I got off the bus. But there was a man there, and someone was putting quarters in his anus, and then he was like a slot machine.
Putting
And
quarters in his anus.
Yeah, like one at a time. Like this guy had a roll of quarters, and he was putting one at a time, and then the guy he'd go like this, and he'd pull his arm down, and they'd like slot machine, and they'd all come out. And I thought I watched that for a
That's
while.
hilarious. That would
I was
be
very amused by that.
very amusing.
Now that's a circus act. That isn't even sexual.
Well, that's the magic of Folsom. It is.
Folsom
Right.
is
It's a
everything.
circus. I have a photo of myself all dressed up, and then I have Mr. T, my Mr. T doll, and then there is a man standing behind me that looks exactly like Mr. T, except for he's in leather gear. And I didn't notice until, and he posed with us, because I'm like, haha, look, they're the same. They both had a mohawk, but then, the real guy had leather cross thing across his chest, and I didn't notice till much later that he had nothing covering his penis, and it's in the photo, and I didn't, which is fine at Folsom. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine at Folsom. Anything goes, really.
Yeah, and I would
So-
go with it just because I always thought it was fun.
And
Because-
I'm all about indulgence and decadence and
So
yeah.
let's speaking of indulgence.
Mhm.
So I'd like to hear two things if you're willing to share them.
Okay.
One is what was your worst experience as a dominatrix? And what was your most fulfilling? And don't feel any pressure.
No pressure.
I can tell you about the most fulfilling one that comes to mind. And this is a very condensed version, but he came to me and had been abused in the Catholic Church and felt the weight of that and the lack of, the loss of his faith, but still feeling very entrenched in the practice of being a good Catholic, very conflicting. And so we baptized him into the Church of Me because I was never going to hurt him in that way, in any way he didn't wish to. And that was intensely cathartic for him, and it beautiful to me.
See, she does the Lord's work.
That's true.
Right.
But one of my dear friends is the Satanatrix.
That's awesome. I love that.
She's fabulous. Did you hear about the New Orleans church altar dominatrix priest incident? You should look it
No.
up. Anyway,
I will.
she's
Okay,
rad. I love her.
I'm making a note.
What happened? I'm lost. I'm
Well,
not tracking
Google
well
it.
today.
Different-
I didn't get any sleep last
Sorry,
night. I'm not doing well.
sidebar.
We'll Google it later, honey.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Is it inappropriate?
Oh, it's
Prob-
so lovely and it's beautiful. And so proud of
So-
her.
So being that you've had a lot of experiences, is there any experience even like personally, like because you've said you used the word promiscuous or and
Curious.
what was the other thing?
curious.
Right. Curious. That's what it was. Curious. And is there an experience that like that stays with you, that kind of haunts you, that like
Oh, so many. I made so many bad decisions. So many. Yeah.
but no, I mean I don't mean in a traumatic way. I mean like in a joyful way. Like you're like, this is what it is to be alive. Like this is, you know,
oh my gosh, discovering an actual orgasm. Mind-blowing.
Now, did it take you a while?
Continues.
Did it take you a while to discover that? I mean, was that something that you had to work at, or?
I mean, yeah, because it's like female orgasm was, especially at the time, very little was understood about it, and very few cared about it at all. And you weren't even taught as a young lady that it was an important thing to seek in a sexual encounter. So it took a while. Yeah.
When you were doing dominatrix work, were you ever aroused, or did you, in order to kind of keep functioning, did you have to like keep it, you know, I guess business-like?
Of course I was aroused at times. Like I'm doing what I love. It's sexy, but not to the point where I'm like, ooh, I gotta go rub one out. Unless I want to work it into the scene, which I've done. It's, you can watch, but you can't touch. But of course it's arousing, but you don't ever lose control.
Now, was there ever an experience that was the most humorous, like the most of like you both started laughing and it was like joyful in that sense?
I had a cat escape the cat room in my home dungeon.
Now, is this where a dude dresses up as a cat?
No. One of my cats.
Oh, okay.
My house cats. And I had a fellow four-pointed and from a beam, beautiful parachute around his balls with some weights on it, and they're a bit dangly. And out of nowhere, there's a cat going
she batting
at the balls, not his, but the weights.
Right.
And we were just, yeah, it was a moment.
So did you see how
the
she
blooper reels,
Did you see how she just told a story about balls and dangling ball, and she still sounded like she's talking over tea, and I mean that's what I love about Kathleen.
Yeah, she has an elegance for sure in her speech. So what made you give up doing dom work? Or do you still have a desire? You're like, I want to get back into it.
No, I do not. Being a dominatrix was the best job in the world. I got to beat people up for fun and profit. I got to just have a very flexible, it was lovely, much to love about it, good money, but I also knew that I wanted something a little bit different and more. And I also knew that being a dominatrix, or, obviously many can go on to do it as long as they wish, but for me, I felt my shelf life was approaching. And I was okay with that. I was like, okay, what is next? Because the choice to be a dominatrix was a crossroads in my life. It was, if I could do anything I wanted and pay the bills, what would it be? And by now, I'd been playing in the clubs long enough that I knew BDSM was a huge part of my world. So I was like, yeah, I had a lot of play partners by then. And I was like, let's see how it goes. Put an ad in the weekly paper. 1 by 1 inch for, I think it was $50 a week back then. And had to get a new phone. I carried 2 phones for 15 years.
A work phone and a personal?
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. So it was very much at a crossroads in what I wanted. And so when it came to what is now, it is my deep true love. It is what was important, what was the culmination of what I wanted. And it also came at a time when a dear friend passed away very suddenly. And she was a peer, a fellow dominatrix. And it's not very often that sex workers, and no matter the circumstances, get anything like a decent legacy. Like, they're remembered with scandal and intrigue and I wondered if I could, honor that after she passed away. And one of the things that she and I, back and forth over the years, talked about was that someday the fabulous chain of hotels in major metropolitan cities that would be staffed with slaves who would pay for the privilege of working there. And it was very pie in the sky. Nothing was too much, nothing was too decadent, nothing was too out there. And it was just a fun conversation we would return to over and over. And I was like, wait a minute, I have a deep love of hospitality. I've been wanting to work with women for a long time. As a dominatrix, my clientele was pretty much exclusively men. And a lot of them, their partners didn't know where they were, what they were up to. Some did. I wish more. But I think that if you don't disclose your kink by the 3rd date, it becomes too emotionally risky. So 20 years later, you're like, I've been thinking about this for a while. I'd like to experience it now. I'm like, holy shit, why did you wait so long? Weird. Let me help. So yeah, deep love of hospitality. I wanted to work with women. I wanted, I was like,
So
what
you
was
had-
important to me? It was like creating a safe space for people to explore their sexuality. It's been men up till now, but I want it for women as well. So for people of all genders to come and explore. And I was like, well, how can I do that? Okay, what have I got? I've got a dungeon. I love hospitality. I hated it when my friends came to town and stayed at hotels. No. Here, stay here. I've got you. And I was like, what if I don't know if anybody would be into it, but what about a kinky bed and breakfast?
Genius. It's genius.
And like, there was one in Seattle that had closed many years prior that I had never had the opportunity to visit, but I asked a lot of questions about it, and I was like, okay. And it's always been about, what would I want? So I had a lingerie and fetish wear boutique while as a dominatrix for a couple of years, and it was like an extension of my dressing room. There was nothing in there that I wouldn't wear if it was my style. And
Can I just tell you, interrupt real fast? I'm interrupting. See that, Brian? I do it too. Her shoe collection is breathtaking.
But isn't that I mean, not to be stereotypical, but isn't that a general like thing that women are really into, is shoes?
Not like this.
Nah.
No, I'm saying for that bar, it's astonishing. And
Like, I would say I had a fetish for my own shoes. I really didn't give a shit about anybody else's. I could appreciate them, that's nice, but my own shoes, how they felt, and interestingly, like the angle that the foot is held at in, not a big platform shoe, but at a high pitched angle, is similar to the way the foot tends to go it during orgasm, it turns out.
It's true.
Really? So
Yeah.
you're saying the arch of the heel like is the
Like
same?
the spike 6-inch. Yeah.
Yeah, nice high pitch, like, you know, you're walking on your tippy toes, but your core is good.
So
Like
I
have
should pay
amazing
attention to
core.
my feet to see if they go into a high heel position.
If yeah, I mean, don't ruin the moment, but check.
Well, hold on. That's
Wait, I
point-
gotta check, see if
very
I got
point-
that arch, high heel arch. So, so what would your guest expect when they arrive? So if Rachel and I went, what would you, how would you introduce us to Innthrall?
Okay. Well, as it is a pandemic, we would meet masked in the parking area, and I would show you the trail of rose petals to find your way to your guest suite, to your private entrance, and give a guided tour. We'd first enter the indoor heated pool room with the spiral staircase to the secret room. We won't talk about it. And then into your chambers, which is nice and cool all of a sudden. And there's a lovely large bath and ice packs in the freezer. And, you know, there's only 3 rules. The first one is hydrate. So lots of bottled waters and electrolyte beverages to keep you going. And some lovely tea things and some chocolates and probably a fruit bowl. There'd be flowers all around. And you'd have an amazing California King 4-poster bed that's so sturdy. I shook beds for years finding the one. It's the one.
And
It's
does
very
it have like a
sturdy.
swing attached to it?
Oh, no. It's just lovely. It has beautiful curtains and mosquito netting all around, and there's a fireplace and some books, and there's a tea chest with assorted condoms and lubricants and handy things you want at the last moment, like handy naps and breath mints. And
He thinks of everything.
I try. I do it all the time. And but then I'd show you. We'd go down the stairs because wait, there's more. And into the indoor, well, 2-story underground dungeon, former racquetball court. Perfect.
It's a
Nobody
racket.
can
It was
hear
a former racquetball court.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we can do better. So now Libertine Hall, which is an 800 square foot dungeon that is got the larger pieces of equipment and accoutrement. This is sex machines and
So if you watched the documentary Kink, which was available on Netflix, they had machines like these jackhammer type stuff. Is that what you're like, jackhammer dildos type stuff?
I have one that does that, and then there's one that's more like a vibrator that you get to straddle, and it has both a buzz and twirl option.
Do you
and
have a
goes to
Sibian?
11. It
Goes
was
to
not-
11.
Yeah,
This one goes to 11.
I felt that was a selling point.
Does it have like a Spinal Tap like logo on it?
No, but it's funny.
This one goes to 11. So
And then but wait, we're not done.
We're not done.
We're not done. I would show you the St. Andrew's Cross. I would show you the apparatus for suspension that conveniently has a yoga swing for your yoga needs during your stay, your machine washable yoga needs. And then there's the cage, lovely cage. There's a very sturdy spanking bench. It was a former rodeo roping practice. Very sturdy. I had a custom top saddle stitch with the whole. Anyway, and then
He thinks of everything.
Hold on. Let me ask my wife something. Would you bend me over the paddle bench and paddle me? Is that something you'd be into?
I had to, sure.
No, I'm not saying you had to. I'm asking if you want to. Do you
No,
want?
we've
I
gone over this, Brian Snyder. I'm not, I'm a very aggressive person in the rest of my life. I am not aggressive in the bedroom. I am the opposite.
Well, what I'm saying is,
I don't,
I feel like lately I irritate you a lot, and I can hear it in your voice, and I think the paddling could help relieve that.
no, I don't think it would.
Okay.
No, because I just don't, I don't like the,
What
to me,
would?
well, maybe in the face.
Yeah.
Because
I
it's your
think
mouth
if
that's irritating me, not your ass.
I think
Your
if
ass
you
is
had a
wiping
lovely
around.
leather glove and you don't, because you don't want to touch them with your hand, and
Right.
just slap them across the face with the glove.
That would be
It,
satisfying.
How
yeah, it
dare
makes
you,
a beautiful
D'Artagnan?
sound.
Yeah, I would like that. The paddling to me feels like there's like you're a naughty little boy, and that weirds me out because I'm a mother of sons, and I think that's
Right.
for me that's weird.
So
For
you
me,
want to ball gag me?
oh yeah, that might work. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
have so many to choose from.
because your ass is not the problem. Trust me. That's we're keeping that. It's the pie hole in the front of your face that's sometimes the issue.
I've been good lately. For the last few months, I've been good, right?
For the last few months,
Yeah.
you made me mad yesterday.
What are you talking about?
We'll talk about it later.
No, are you talking about I made a state when I was about to falling asleep?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I did yesterday.
Kathleen, he's like a lawyer. He's his your mom calls you the bulldog. Well, he just grabs onto something and just like and he doesn't let go.
Let it go. Settle down because we haven't finished the tour.
No, we haven't finished the short. Sorry.
So yeah, we've gone through Libertine Hall, and then we'll go back up the stairs and out the door to the back to the pool room, which is really warm, but the water's like 90 when you get in. It's pretty fabulous. And we go through another door, and you're in the airlock chamber is what I call it. And it's walls lined with gear and toys and anything you thought of
So you can just go
experimenting
through
with.
and like, oh, I'll take some of this and one of these and like that.
And
Do you
anything
have a
that's
little
like
shopping
in,
bag?
Hmm?
Do you have a little like picnic basket or something that
yeah, it's a little basket because convenience. And
so you can
yeah.
carry stuff?
Right. But I do keep the glass and metal toys downstairs so that, because they're heavy and awkward. So yeah, we start at the insertables shelf, where by size we have the confidence builders, and then there's worth working for, and at the lower shelves are the ambitious fuckers. And so there we are. And then there's just every style, every strain, tons of canes, whips, floggers,
Is there any white
chastity
blind canes? Or does anybody want to use those to?
Oh, not yet. But you know what? We haven't given them the opportunity. So it's a good idea.
What do you think, Rachel?
Well, that just had me, I just thought of a question. Because Kathleen understands the psychology of a lot of this stuff. What do you think is the psychology behind people who like sensory deprivation, like being blindfolded or having their hearing blocked? What is that?
Oh,
About?
it's being nothing for a while with no input. The world isn't coming at you. There's no weight on your shoulders. You're floating in a space, and it depends. Do you just stay there? Is it pure sensory deprivation? Or a lot of the times it starts that way, which is a really cool state to start from. And then I would add layers until it was sensory overload, because I'm an asshole. That's fun.
Oh.
But no, they asked for it. I'm kidding. But yeah, like for instance, I love to go night swimming in my pool, and I'll pull the cover closed and turn the heater way up until it's body temperature. And then this is so indulgent, like
That sounds awesome.
and then I turn off all the lights. I just float.
Oh, I always wanted to go in one of those tanks.
And yeah, I tried a tank. That was okay. This is better. When you can come over.
I would
It's
love to. When
Just
when
go for a lovely float
yes, I've been thinking like if I
under
could.
the moonlight. I call it the
This-
Twilight Cathedral.
I love that. If this stupid pandemic would stop it.
I know. So yeah, then at the end of the airlock is where your space ends and mine begins. And I bid you a fond farewell. Yes, make sure you don't have any questions. Let you know.
Oh,
how to
that's why it's the
reach
airlock.
me.
It's the bye.
It's actually, I have 2 separate HVAC systems is the only reason I could do this. And so there's an air purifier constantly running in there. And like as many measures as can be taken, I do. So yeah, I deliver breakfast there. I message when it's arrived, and it's contactless beyond the tour. And it's, no contact, but like that's kind of, it's weird. I'm accustomed to having guests around more.
Well, and before COVID, you did do some instructional stuff too, didn't you? Or some workshop-y type stuff?
I hosted some workshops. I did a little bit of instruction. I did the art of the lap dance. It's one of my classes. Mostly it was
You
the
taught
events.
Rachel the art of the lap dance?
I gave you one once, the girl Christmas, didn't I?
Yeah, I know I got one. He wants to
Yeah.
know if you taught me how to do it.
I
No, I can't
mean,
taught
yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, I'm just too much of a
Girl
dork.
Christmas was awesome.
Yeah, I have gotten a lap dance from Kathleen, and it was fantastic.
Did you sing Santa Baby when you gave her the lap dance?
Hell no.
Oh,
No.
well, it's Christmas.
So
And I probably gave her one too, but I'm sure it wasn't good.
Okay.
So, I'm busy singing pterodactyl songs, and
it's true.
Yeah, that's kind of my wheelhouse.
You're kind of, in one sense, you're polar opposites, kind of like.
I know.
Kind of, right? Like you'd make a great buddy movie.
We'd make a great con artist team, I think.
Long game.
Yeah, long game con art. we are opposites in a lot of ways, but the main ways we're not. We both love fun.
Mm-hmm.
We both love being bossy. Mm-hmm. We both love cocktails. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe not so much anymore, but that's just because
not so much me either.
When we were younger and
was
free.
My drinking sensei.
That's right.
So, when we met, I had 15 and a half years of sobriety until a very intentional decision at Burning Man when, sometime. And no. But then she offered to be my sensei, and I was like, well, she's very good at drinking. Definitely, I will take her up on this. And
yes, speaking of art, I mean, drinking was an art for me, and I do. Now, why was I the sensei? Was there an issue? Did you
remember why we chose that title for you? We were drunk.
No, it's not the title. It was you must have overdone something. There must have been some mistake you had made that made me feel that you need.
I think you heard about it the next day. It was a gathering on the back porch at Shannon's, mm-hmm. and much drinking, many people. It was a bit warm.
Oh,
and there was a lot of sugar. So I'm guessing girl Chris. Anyway, I popped out of whoever's lap I was sitting in and toddled down the stairs and around the corner and puked in the lovely flower bush. And came back into the house and had a rinse, and I told Shannon about it later, and she's like, "Oh dear, we can't have that."
Bring the expert in. Bring the expert in.
So I think Rachel was elected
because that was my strength at the time.
She was enthusiastic about it.
Very enthusiastic, yes.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions. So one, I'm assuming you're pretty good at reading people, and
I am.
Okay. So if I came to you for seeking your dominatrix services, what would you think a guy like me wants?
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Honestly, it's gonna be probably underwhelming. I've learned to not make assumptions.
Oh, just make one.
She wants your assumption. It's okay. You can be brutally honest. You can. And
I
I'll
think that you
accept it.
want to be forced to pleasure a woman over and over.
Okay.
What do you think, Brian?
That's fair. That's a fair analysis. That's fair. Yeah. That's, I think, yeah, I mean,
However she chooses, but ideally one or two ways.
I think that's a very fair assessment. What do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, no, that sounds right.
Now, if Rachel went in,
Mhm.
what would you think her thing would be?
Not stuffing
she
butt.
came
She
in.
already knows how I feel about that.
I can't tell you that.
Because it's
That's
so
friendship level 10.
okay.
You cannot breach the inner circle, Brian Snyder.
Pardon?
I said you cannot breach the inner circle.
Okay. All right. So
Notice
I'm outside the circle.
The circle will hold.
She completely demurred your what was the wildest thing I ever did. Did you see that? She just went right over it and then it's like an hour later. That's the grace I'm talking about right there.
So am I is this the cackling hens of the apocalypse circle we're talking about? Or
That's how the hen house came to be known as such, because Chaw moved right in.
Yep.
right.
Yeah, it became the hen house when Shaw took over, as Shaw does.
As I wished them to.
As they should.
Now, if Rachel and I came to Innthrall, what would you suggest we explore?
Which I have considered, by the way.
Everything that has ever appealed to you. Explore every rabbit trail. This is adult wonderland. It offers you every opportunity and all of the privacy. And it takes away everything that would prevent you from indulging. So there's no clocks. There's, you have everything you need. Like you can use your food service app and the food will happen. Like you get a really good breakfast.
So you don't have to leave.
Like people they make fancy dinner reservations and then they cancel them.
Because why would you leave?
I was like, and I tell them, no, as much as possible, stay in the magic bubble together.
Well, and I've suggested that we go, and that was when you were closer. No, a plane ride is a plane ride, so
Sure, it's far.
But then pandemic started, and then my job kicked into high gear, of course, while everyone else was at home. I was not. I was working double shifts, as you do, and now I'm not. So, but now we're still pandemicing.
Yep.
Now, is this the place that Heather Jordan discussed on Body Talk?
If she says so.
I feel like it is, right?
I don't feel that I can break confidentiality for any of my clients. And even if somebody who hadn't been here said they were, I wouldn't say otherwise.
No, I only mentioned that because she did it on that podcast.
I don't remember. I don't think that's what she was talking about.
Well,
okay.
She did. Her current partner, their first little love shack was in the basement at the old place.
Yeah, I think she was on the Body Storytelling podcast.
Then she probably talked about it.
And I think she was talking about when she met her partner, and that so it was that
okay, different.
Yeah, so I think it was someplace else.
Different place then.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever thought about doing a podcast about all of this?
No.
She's shy.
This is my first ever interview that I don't want to sound lofty, but that I've granted.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm honored.
I'm very camera shy. I'm, the concept of everything that goes to the internet stays there forever, even if you fuck it up really badly.
True that.
Mm.
I know about that.
And
I
so
actually, when Brian asked me about you, I was like, I don't know if she'll do it. I said, she'd be amazing, but she's very private, and she's not. I don't know how she'll feel about being on video. Like she's shy and she's private. Like you can ask.
I'm the one who's always dodging the camera.
Yeah.
So-
So I was so happy when you said yes. So it was so exciting for me.
And I'm happy as well. Now, I mean, a lot of this is, is essentially the dominatrix work to some degree. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can correct me, of course. A lot of it's a show, like it's acting, right? Had you ever thought about going into
No.
acting at all?
No, never.
Oh, you'd be really good at it.
No, I couldn't be. Okay, so I could bend over backwards naked for $1 in bad lighting, but if you hand me a microphone or put me on like give me a speaking, my voice becomes this big, and no, never appealed,
And she blushes.
Hmm.
and it shows.
And she can blush, and she can say, and then I had him on with his balls and the dangling, and she won't blush, but microphone, and then she's just bright red. It's super cute.
Awful. It's awful.
I mean,
Such
you can
stage
tell me
fright.
this. Have you had blind clients as a dominatrix?
I have.
Wow.
Yeah. So their service dropped them. I had street clothes on. Walked in because there were many stairs. And yeah. I think he came back 3 or 4 times.
Hmm.
Brian's pondering all that entails.
No, I'm just wondering. I mean, I know you probably can't tell me the specifics, but I was just curious, like what they were
really-
seeking,
I know, and I can't tell you exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I was just silent. I was just like, I wonder. Huh.
Yeah. Give it a thought. Yeah.
I will. So, where is Innthrall located?
It is in Pennsylvania.
That's where my big baby is, right?
I didn't know that,
That's where Marv
actually.
is. He's in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. So that's 5 hours away. We're on the outskirts of Reading,
Oh, so you're a little ways away.
which is spelled Reading. So Reading Railroad and Monopoly, we were lied to all those years.
Oh,
It's Reading.
Reading. See, the more you know.
Anyway,
He and his
on the
partner are in Pittsburgh.
far outskirts. I live in a crystal castle at the top of the hill on a private road with surrounded by 14 acres of privacy.
But the likelihood of me being in that state has risen
Yes,
exponentially.
it has.
on all.
I am stoked.
And 5 hours is not much when you're from California. And I mean, that's
Yeah.
LA to Oakland is what that is.
Right.
It's nothing. Did it all the time with you.
And originally you were in Seattle, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Okay.
5 years there.
Yeah. So then she went to Pennsylvania, and I'm like, that's forever away. And then Mars went there. I'm like, that's just right there. Because he's never leaving. He loves it there.
Oh, really? I mean, I've been truly surprised by how beautiful it is here. I literally know nobody on this coast
Yeah.
that I
like it
didn't
that
move
way?
here with.
So
Right.
if you don't mind me asking, why did you move from Seattle to Pennsylvania?
I needed to scale, and I had been renting. I needed to build some equity, and it was ready to grow. I was getting more inquiries than I could handle, than the space could handle. And so moved here with the intention of opening with 3 guest suites. And I'm now contactlessly operating 1 mega suite. It's like 3,000 square feet.
Wow. I
Mm.
can't wait to see it. I'm sure it's opulent and wonderful.
Have you
Thank
thought
you.
about franchising this?
I have thought about it. The problem is finding innkeepers.
And standards, keeping up to her standards, which are very,
They're very high, I've heard.
I bet it's
Really?
that's another that's the thing I appreciate about you.
So the strictness of a dominatrix is there in your standards.
It is. It's there in, first of all, sanitation. My processes are intense, and I'm cool with that.
Ryan would appreciate that very much.
My standard of cleaning is in the entire space. Am I willing to put my vagina there? My very, very fussy vagina. And if the answer is no, it's not clean enough.
That should really, I
That's-
think
That's my
the
standard of
across-the-board
cleaning.
Standard for everyone.
That should be a
Will
commercial
I
for
set my
cleaning.
vagina there? No, then it's not clean enough.
Exactly.
It's a commercial
I'd
for
eat off of
cleaning.
it, but I'm not setting my vagina there.
You should say that about everything. I'm not going to put my vagina on that.
This plate is filthy. Am I supposed to put my vagina on this plate? Is
Right.
that what you're expecting me to do?
Oh no.
See how mature I am now?
Of that.
See how mature I just said vagina without giggling at all.
Well done you.
So how can we connect with you? If we want to go to Innthrall, where do we go? Where's the website, contact information, and all that?
Innthrall.com. Innthrall.com.
All right.
Again, genius. Genius marketing.
As thrall translates to slave. So
Brilliant.
being enthralled with things is being captivated by them. So you're a captive.
I literally clapped when I heard it, like in glee. I was like,
I'm all about the triple entendre when you can pull it off.
yeah.
So I've been asking these questions recently, and I'm just curious to hear your responses. And the questions I'm about to ask they don't have to be thought out. It's the first thing that comes to your mind. So, first of all, if you could speak to everyone on Earth simultaneously, what would you say to them?
Exhale. Exhale. Drop your jaw. Let your asshole unclench for that half a second when you exhale.
I'm with you on that. You know why? Because I've been realizing I have OCD and stuff like that, and I have a lot of anxiety and shit. And one of the things I've been noticing to kind of be mindful of what is going on physically is I have an enormous amount of tension in my body. And I think most of it is related to not breathing, like literally walking around, not breathing. And I notice when my shit gets really bad, I have to stop and go, wait a minute, I'm not fucking breathing right now. And so I appreciate that because it's important. It's odd that we have to think about it.
It is, but as someone who's had plenty of mental health history, I've worked really hard to get as grounded as I've managed to get. And exhaling has had a lot to do with it. It sounds so simple, but it's so impossible sometimes.
Well, and Kathleen has talked me out of panic attacks before. And she's very good at it. I mean, because I go to a place where I'm hard to reach. And that soothing voice, and she just knows what to say, and she's very good at that. And that was a perfect word for you, I think. Because I think I remember you saying it to me in a bar.
It's possible.
Yeah. Because at Burning Man, it's really bad. My mental health would get challenged out there.
And it's hard. It's very hard. Almost, I remember being so excited the first year I didn't lose my shit on Playa.
Yeah.
That was a big milestone. As prepared as I could be, And nope, still lost my shit. Just Burning Man will do that to you.
Oh, well, and that's one of the things I loved about it is I could do that there and minimal damage usually.
Which is why I had my first drink in ever so long there, because, well, you remember a couple of drunky pants nights.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that was when I got drunk, was when I was in the desert and I couldn't hurt anything
Yeah.
at night.
So Rachel,
Yes.
I want you to think right now. Take some time to think. I'm going to ask her a question, but while I'm doing that, I want you to think about your question.
Wait, my question or my answer to a question?
No question.
I'm asking a question?
You can also think about your answer to the same question.
Wait, no,
But
hold on. So you want me to ask Kathleen a question?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I also want you to think about the same thing. I don't know if you responded to this before. If you have, then don't worry about it. But
well, I already know what my answer to your question would be. I don't know what my question is going to be.
yeah, think about it. I'm going to ask her this question.
Okay.
So you have two options to actually three to respond to this. One is what I was going to ask is, what would you say at your eulogy, a short eulogy, or what would your epitaph be? Or you can opt out of both.
I don't need a eulogy or epitaph, but I would like a memorial. I would like there to be a lovely place, and there should be a water feature and a bench, and it should have catnip plants and a fountain.
You're getting a eulogy.
I'd prefer memorial.
She's classy.
What would you, do you already have a eulogy for her?
No, I haven't thought about it. I'm just saying that I would naturally want to do that because that's what I do.
I have no idea what people would say about me.
Would you want your clients to say things?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually, because I think that they could take a lot of stigma out of professional domination and transactional relationships and the value that they can have.
Yeah,
What
I
did you-
know that you've taken a lot of that out of it for me, that I've understood it much better through you.
Cool.
What did you think of 50 Shades of Grey?
I've never read it or watched it.
That's okay.
I have the books on the shelf, but I turned them around so they're facing backwards.
I feel like I
feel ashamed of having it.
they're kind of I think they're kind of the amateur hour of the
you know what? I appreciate them. They're definitely one-handed reading, like the porn. That's what they're meant for. That's all they're meant to be. They're not an instructional guide. They're not a way to live. Like,
they're a bridge.
Take away the money, and it's full of it's full of like just bad.
I think they're kind of a bridge for the mainstream to kind of.
It started a conversation.
Yes.
And I will sing its praises for that reason. It gave people a topical conversation. It gave them language around desires that they maybe have never learned how to express. And it started a conversation. And maybe that conversation takes 5 years to come to any sort of fruition, but it wasn't going to happen otherwise. So I am really grateful to it for that.
Thank you. Rachel, did you have a question?
I guess.
Well, I don't want a begrudging question.
No, it's not a begrudging question. So throughout this conversation, when Kathleen and I haven't seen each other for years because
years
when I got
years.
Has it really been that long?
It's been so long.
Yeah.
Once I started Innthrall, I was married to it basically. Like I made a couple of like teensy visits and that was all I could eke out.
So I got sick in 2014 and I was completely removed from my entire life at that time. I picked up and set over here and I've never made it back really. And then Kathleen, she also because of her business, just plucked out, and our world that we spent, in together it's not there anymore. It doesn't exist anymore.
It's not.
It's been dispersed, and it's not there. So and I know through my experience, I know that she's been through a lot since then, and I've obviously gone through a lot, and we've, I'm sure, changed and matured in a lot of wonderful ways, and maybe some sad ways too. But oh, that makes me want to cry because we had so much fun together. That was a very fun time in my life.
Mine as well, deeply treasured.
But since then, I've found, I was always a writer, but I found my place in the death work. It's just exactly where I belong. It's exactly where I want to be. And through this conversation, I have been making all these parallels. Like, I've just seen so many between the sex work and the death work, everywhere from the stigma to the otherness to the privacy to the being in a world that most people can't imagine and have really weird ideas about.
I was a lot of people's dirty little secret, including, until I got smarter, my partners.
Right.
And it was kind of expected. Well, no, you wouldn't disclose that,
Well, and that's the other thing,
in that day and age.
They're both very intimate jobs as well, where and if you happen to come to cross paths with someone in your life, you're in a very intimate part of their life, which,
they always know they can approach me unless I'm like with children or something, but I will never out them.
Yes. Well, and so my question is, since at least I am seeing lots of these parallels in the two types of work, my work has brought a fulfillment that I have never felt before, and it's changed me in a lot of ways. And I was wondering if there's something about the sex work that you've done for so long and just evolved and evolved and evolved and just changed. And what is the most fulfilling part of it for you? What is the part that that maybe someone wouldn't even connect to it, that you find that really makes you feel like you're where you're supposed to be?
So when I started Innthrall, I thought it would be novel and cool and fun and sexy, and it was all of those things. And what I didn't know I would find was what it meant to people to have this space. And when they returned, and my mind kind of got blown, and then the first time I realized that somebody had flown from, I think, Colorado, I was like, oh, you flew here? That's so weird. People have flown to my weird little B&B in the suburbs. Okay. And I had people from other countries and across the country. So what it meant to people to have this space and to know, I guess they watched their relationships deepen in ways that they had never done prior. And they found that over and over. And I wasn't there, so I can't tell you exactly what it was. Sometimes I do educational consultations, like by the hour. But that was so meaningful to me. It was like, okay, the culmination of the things in my life that are truly important. My overarching life goal of giving people a safe space and permission to explore themselves and their sexuality and their partners, and giving them that magic bubble and seeing what it means to them to leave behind the default world.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love what you have done, by the way. And I know I've told you that, but I wanted to tell you again that I just think that you're just so brilliant and so
I'm so in love with it.
So good at what you do.
I never knew. I have never felt anything in my life before that resembled a calling, and as far as I can tell, this does. And I thought those were for other people,
Some of us are late bloomers.
How many people know somebody who's found their calling? Like, it sounds so very lofty,
Yes.
but that's the closest thing I can say it feels like. So
What about you, Brian Snyder?
What my calling is?
What? No, actually, what's the question about the one word that you would say to the world? You've asked that in a couple episodes now, and you haven't told yours.
Did I say one word?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I meant to say one thing.
Well, you said one word.
Well, I think I'm not tracking well today.
Were you having a rough time today? It's all the
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Well,
all
I told you I didn't sleep
podcast.
well. Like
Yeah.
I woke up and then like I just
it makes the whole world different.
yeah. So I'm a little off and I apologize. But I really love that you said exhale because I think about that every day now. I mean, I've been doing it for a couple months now. I've been focusing on just breathing, and it's so critical to thinking.
Yeah. It makes
And
you smarter. It turns
I-
out.
and I it's so fucking odd that it's come up now because I this week I lost or we lost um my acting teacher, one of my acting teachers at Cal Arts. Her name was Fran Bennett, and she was just this very powerful woman and just amazing and strong. And she had this incredible. She was like a female James Earl Jones. She was like really just. I mean, she was just had that presence and that strength in her voice. And
Force of nature.
yeah, and one of the things she used to say, and I was reminded of it by somebody mentioning it, just on Facebook about, how much they missed her. And she had this thing that she would say to us to say that breath is a thought. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And I think about my breathing in relation to the things I think and the things I do. And then I think about how important breath is and how, even now it's like I'm so tight, my whole body's tight, my jaw's tight. I remember we used to have
Let
to do
your
this,
jaw drop.
and we do this exercise where we just get that, hold on to our jaw and get it loose so that we could talk and be free and open. And I've lost all of that, and I knew how to do it, and I've been trying to rediscover that again. And I just appreciated that you said that because it's so critical to everything, especially now when everybody's stressed and
So
panicked and
stressed.
afraid.
And for good reasons. And those are going to be there. And I've heard a lot of focus on the in-breath, but I feel it's the exhale that's gets you centered and grounded and receptive again. A little bit of a contraction before you're ready to expand again. Did I get too woo?
Brian, are you?
No, I'm just trying to live in that moment a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about it. I mean, I think
And parallelly, but to our more salacious conversation, when introducing butt stuffing to someone who has requested it, I've often have to tell them
to breathe.
to exhale.
Oh, to exhale.
And then I just watch their breathing. I just let them breathe normally. And when I see them exhale would be when I would push whatever object inward, just
And it could be anything.
Use bit. Yeah. But it is that moment when your body, even your asshole, is not holding tension.
my asshole has an enormous amount of tension. I'm talking like it's a
has its
medical
place.
problem. It's becoming a problem. It's yeah.
So try the exhale like over and over.
I mean, I used to meditate.
Jaw. I can't meditate with this shit.
And I had a chanting practice and all this stuff. And I just and I just got to get back to it. It's just with the work I do and the stress, I lose sight, and I'm, at the end of the day, I'm just fucking exhausted every day,
Right.
and it doesn't give me, like, we went away to Humboldt in May, and we were only there for 2 fucking days, but just enough time that was just enough. And we went out to the beach, and then we had I had the idea for the video we did, and like my creativity started to come back, and I was getting relaxed, and it's all taken away again. And I can't, it's on a daily basis. I'm just not good at finding that Zen. And I mean, I used to, I used to practice Buddhism and do all these things but they in themselves take a lot of time and effort. And so,
And I'm not exactly a relaxing presence, as you know.
that was so funny, because when I sent a message to remind Kathleen, I said, just to let her know, we're looking forward to talking with you. And then you were saying how you were feeling. And I said, Rachel, it's going to be fun and relaxing. And then you said, and what did you write?
I said, relaxing is the word used most often to describe Rachel.
Yes, pretty much. Relaxing, peaceful, quiet.
Super zen.
No, but I mean, Rachel,
sensible.
the thing is, and this is why I was kind of asking about if you had blind clients, because what Rachel, loving me the way she loves me, and I feel like I'm fading away all the time. I often use the if you've ever seen, did you see the first Back to the Future?
I did.
Do you remember when Marty McFly is playing at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance? He's playing Earth Angel, and his parents are dancing.
Right.
And this guy, comes up to his mom and says, "I'm cutting in, McFly." And then he starts fading away, right? And that's how I feel all the time, except me, it's not me fading away. It's like everything. And so Rachel, what she does is she keeps me tethered to this world. She makes me feel alive, being who she is. And there isn't anybody on this earth that can do that.
No, not like Rachel.
Exactly. Is she gone?
No, I'm here listening. You're saying nice things, be quiet so you
She's
can go
here.
on.
Yeah, she's a force of nature unto herself. Absolutely. And she's a whirlwind at times, and sometimes, she can be so many different types of nature. She's sunny as hell now and then. Like when she's shining her light at you, you feel it. She can be dark and stormy for sure, but she is always a force of nature.
I call her my fire tornado.
Apt.
That's, yeah.
At times.
Sometimes.
At times, yeah. Yeah. And that can be an amazingly good thing.
And sometimes it's a little much, but I'm without alcohol fueling it, I'm a little, it's not much different. The volume's a little lower, but not really.
You don't have as many co-conspirators as all.
That's the other thing. Yeah, is I have no posse for
right.
So there's that.
I have zero posse on this coast.
No all-stars, no West Coast all-stars anymore.
Oh man, that was such a good trip. West Coast All-Stars tour.
Well, you'll have to get together again, reunion.
I would look forward to it.
Yeah,
I have no idea when that could possibly be, but boy, will it be lovely.
Well, I'm gonna have to come to you, I think, is what's gonna have to happen, because
with the big one so close.
I know. I haven't seen him in like 2 years. It's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
I'd kill him for that. I said, I told you to fly, to never be held to a place because of me, and to always explore the world and follow I didn't mean it. You're supposed to live in
and now look what happened.
And you know what? He had every sign that's what he was going to do, right? Like, I thought that was a done deal, but no, he fell in love, and then there he goes. Fine.
Love.
Children. The other one's
So,
gonna be in prison by the time he's 17, so I'll know where he is.
so here we are about to wrap it up. And is there anything that you'd like to share with us, Kathleen? Of course, we'll mention the website again for those that want to explore their fantasies and so on. Is there anything you'd like to share with us?
Well, I guess just along with that, don't be afraid to ask questions. I do offer consultations. I have a broad, bizarre body of knowledge that's pretty comprehensive, and I am delighted to share it.
And she's very kind about stupid questions because I've asked her a lot with them.
I want you to fill my home with love, joy, and orgasms.
Love, joy, and orgasms. That's the title of this podcast.
Yay.
This episode. So, Rachel, is there anything that you would like to ask or share or anything before we close?
No, I mean, I'm so happy to reconnect, and I missed you so much. And, you know, Kathleen is one of my nearest and dearest and, you know, heart friends.
Heart friends, yeah.
And we've just been, you know, having life happen, and it's kept us apart. And, you know, and I'm just glad that it was easy to just be right back in our little,
Here we are.
our little heart hole we go into. And I do want to give you permission, if Brian wants to know something about, let it go ahead and, because he's so intrigued.
If
You know,
I may offer insights with
He may, yes,
Rachel's
permission
consent.
has been given. So,
Okay.
because he, you know, he didn't know me in the before times. So he,
Right.
curious.
I mean, there's questions.
I mean, but honestly, would we have met if you had continued on your path unimpeded?
No, because I wouldn't be here probably. I mean,
Exactly.
we met because my father died, really. I mean, that's the thing that brought us together in a way, because I was looking for advice for my movie that I'm trying to write. That you never talk about on the podcast to advertise it, but that's okay because I'm not done with it yet.
Well, I'm not going to advertise something until you're ready. We haven't discussed that.
I'm kidding. But no, I don't think I would have. I mean, I'm here because I was sick. You know, that's how I got here. So, and
Well,
you know, the blessing of that was that I got to be with my father as he was dying, and I got to meet you. So that's, you know,
that
and
has been lovely to watch.
and the little guy, I think, is another factor why you're here.
well, yeah, I have a court order keeping me here. because of-
Exactly. So
yeah,
it's the law.
there's a legality that's keeping me here. It's called it's called a court order. But
Right.
but no, but
Exactly.
you know, none of that. If I hadn't gotten sick, this whole world of mine would not exist. I would be in a very different place, and I don't know where that would be.
Who knows how that would have pivoted?
I mean, my career would have been different, but my private life would have been completely different. My career path got interrupted, and that's my only real regret about, you know, everything that happened, is that my career path got tanked. But you know, then if that hadn't happened, then again, I wouldn't be doing the death work, and I wouldn't have met you, and you know, we wouldn't live in this beautiful home and have this family and have the dog that eats my tampons. I mean, what else could I ask for?
What else could you ask for? No, it's been beautiful, you know, and it's through social media and it's from afar and for, you know, through our mutual friends, but just hearing about the two of you and how wonderfully you've come together.
Yeah, we're
This
much
has been
like you and I.
amazing.
We are from very different worlds, and but we work together very well.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, Slido.
We do.
I am super pleased about it.
And isn't he handsome? It's ridiculous.
Ever so.
And the wonderful radio. I think that you two should have a radio show, is what I think. You talk.
Yeah. I mean, what would we call it?
I have no idea. What would we talk about?
I don't know, but it would help me sleep, and I would just listen to you and just be calm.
Oh, Valium voice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can totally do a Valium voice pot.
Kathleen is a Rachel whisperer, by the way, Brian. She's one of the few people who can bring me out of whatever.
Put
any
me
state,
on the
really.
phone. If there's a situation, call me.
Yeah, if I get too wound up, she can. Bring it down.
If I'm available, I'm happy to.
Well, I could sense that when we did that transition and I went off on whatever I went off on, and you said, we haven't finished the tour yet. Remember that
Right.
a while back?
Yeah, she redirected you.
And you handled that. And I felt, I didn't feel emasculated. I felt at ease. I felt like, oh, this is good. I
Oh,
felt
good.
at
We're back
peace.
where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of your many talents, right?
I think it's a great example of what I was
I-
trying to say about her earlier when you asked me what I loved about her. That was an example of what I love about her. That
Mhm.
instance where she redirected and brought it back. Where we're going.
Did you notice how I redirected and didn't have to answer that question?
Look, you're learning. He's picking it up. He's quick.
Quick study, yeah.
All right, Kathleen
Yeah,
Ashford,
you.
thank you so much for being here. It was really a joy to meet you, and learn about you and what is alive within you. And everybody who's listening and watching, please visit Innthrall.com, and you can learn about Kathleen's Inn and the sexy erotic things that anyone can do there, and do it in a very safe way during COVID-19. So thank you, Kathleen. It was an honor to meet you.
Thank you for making my first time so lovely.
It was lovely. Rachel, thank you for being my co-host and wife.
You're welcome. Thank you for being my co-host and wife.
So thank you for being everything, everyone who you are.
I'm so happy to see you. This was wonderful. It made me really happy. I cried. That's the first time I cried on a podcast.
That is true.
Oh,
And she's had many reasons to cry and
Talk about
before,
really
but
awful things usually. So I love you and thank you.
Tears
So much.
are also a lubricant.
Yes. Oh, that's a Kathleen quote right there.
That could be the title.
beautiful. Tears are also a lubricant. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening and watching. This was The Blind Man in Black. I am your host, Brian Snyder, and with me, my co-host and wife, Rachel Snyder. And if you like the show, please rate, subscribe, review. It really helps. If you don't like it, send it to somebody you don't like, your opposing political party, but please do something with it. And if you want to see my wife and I being exhausting, go to the Exhausting Snyders on TikTok
And Instagram.
and Instagram. I always fucking forget Instagram. I'm sorry. But thank you so much, Kathleen Ashford, everybody. Innthrall.com. And now we're going to have our awkward ending.
Awkward ending.
Yay, awkward endings.
Here we go. Oh, shit. There it is.
I love an awkward ending. It's
I
all
know,
about
I
the
know.
dismount.
I know. I know you do. Did you do it, Brian?
Yes.